You're watching Herald Now. It is 8:08. The government is this morning lauding a new deal that will see all kāinga ora homes furnished, new when it needs replacing, of course, furnished with woolen carpets from next month. The Herald's political editor, Thomas Coughlan, is with us from Wellington. Hey, Thomas.
Morning, Ryan.
Good to see you. This is quite a big deal for the industry because it's a massive contract, but also something that's been bubbling away. And you know, New Zealand First has been involved. A whole bunch of politicians have been pushing for this, and this is quite significant.
Yes, this has been bubbling away for many, many years now. The wool price in New Zealand has been a long-standing bugbear. I mean, you could argue it goes all the way back to the collapse in the wool price after the Korean War, which put us on this decades-long economic trajectory that we're on now. More recently, of course, there has been a bugbear around synthetics and the use of synthetic fibres all around the world, and then adding insult to injury is the fact that the government got in on the synthetic fibre train as well. State homes, government buildings had synthetic fibres installed in them. New Zealand First was constantly banging the drum about wanting to actually install New Zealand wool fibres in carpets in government buildings. They have now won that battle. Kāinga Ora says that as of next month, all state houses or new state houses will have woolen carpets. That's around 4,500 state houses over the next 3 years. The government's also directed that other government agencies, when installing carpets, should have wool as their first preference when it's practicable to do so. So that's around 130 government agencies. So it'll be interesting to see how many of them go for wool carpets too. Kāinga Ora says that this contract will mean no extra cost to Kāinga Ora. So that is the tender was so competitive that wool has managed to compete with synthetics.
That's incredible because, go back to, was it the state houses or the classrooms, and the wool industry was basically locked out of even putting a tender in because they said their prices they assumed would be too high. So this is quite incredible that they've managed to come in competitively.
There was a controversy in December that Kāinga Ora put out the tender and only synthetic fibres were asked to compete.
Yeah, so clearly they've shown them, haven't they? Now, let's move on to Israel, because our government has joined with Australia and Canada and a bunch of others, the UK, in sanctioning these two far-right Israeli ministers. The US has come out and said, you focus on Hamas, what are you doing? Should the government be worried about blowback from the US?
Hard to say. We are in the middle of the pack here. We're not the only country that has sanctioned these ministers. It was a joint effort from several countries. And New Zealand in general on Israel has not stuck its head above the parapet and has generally moved along with countries in the European Union, countries like the UK, Australia, Canada. So we're not alone in what we've done here in sanctioning these two ministers, including the finance minister who gave an interview to The Economist this week, which was positioned around that minister being quite hardline. If there is blowback, that, as you say, the State Department has issued a statement criticising the decision. But if there is blowback, it would be blowback to several other countries as well.
Thomas, just finally, what's up with the House sitting schedule at the moment? I asked Chris Hipkins about this the other day. He said it's a question for Chris Bishop, who we haven't had on the show for any other reasons. I haven't got to it. But it seems like week on, week off, week on, week off. What's going on?
Yeah, I crunched the numbers on this for you. We're at about 83 sitting days this year. The average is about 90 over history. It is a wee bit lower now because we have the two scrutiny weeks. So next week the House isn't sitting, but there is scrutiny week. So the backbenchers will be in scrutinising the budget. So that, for all intents and purposes, Parliament will be functioning, even though the House won't be sitting. The record is about is 34 weeks, I think. Currently, it's about 30 weeks. So Helen Clark in 2000 had 34 weeks, which would be over 100 sitting days, and we're sitting at below 80. So that's where it positions itself. But if you include the scrutiny week, we are at about average.
Okay. So the last time anyone really worked hard was Helen Clark days. But you could actually argue, it's interesting with the scrutiny weeks, that you get more out of those than you would out of a question time.
Yeah, I'd look, if someone asked me to pick between a scrutiny week and a question time, I'd probably go for a scrutiny week. Yeah. So I think I personally think that 80 something days plus 2 scrutiny weeks is better than 90 days and no scrutiny weeks. So yeah, I perhaps would accept the government's excuse there.
Yeah.
But certainly, in terms of the legislative timetable, if the government has a busy legislative agenda and is using a lot of urgency as it is at the moment, then maybe it is time to think about putting your Helen Clark hat on, pretending it's the year 2000, and going for over 100 sitting days.
Yeah, put your big pants on and get out there. I appreciate your time, Thomas. Thomas Coughlan, the Herald's political editor, with us from Wellington this morning. We all know farmers have ditched their